A very good morning and welcome to Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha. In the next 30 minutes, we'll be getting you all the latest news and developments from across India and also around the world. The top story we are tracking this morning is, of course, the COVID-19 situation in the country. India's COVID-19 count has reached 1,58,333 as per the latest numbers released by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The last 24 hours has seen a spike of 6,566 new cases of COVID-19 and 194 deaths across different parts of the country. But the good news is that COVID patients in India are recovering at the highest rate so far. Further, the deaths due to COVID-19 in India are the lowest in the world.
While Maharashtra continues to report a high number of cases, the COVID-19 infection surged in Tamil Nadu, where 646 new cases emerged on Tuesday. According to the Health Ministry, timely lockdown and early detection of coronavirus cases are the main reasons behind the high recovery rate. The recovery rate during the first lockdown period was around 7.1%. Recovery rate during the second lockdown was 11.42%, which further rose to 26.59%. On 18th of May, when lockdown 4.0 commenced, India's recovery rate was 38%. India has one of the lowest COVID-19 fatality rates in the world. The mortality rate of coronavirus patients in the country has now reduced to 2.87% from 3.38% in April. The global average for coronavirus fatality stood at 6.45%. France recorded the mortality rate of 19.9%, Belgium 16.3%, Italy 14.3%, China 5.5%, US 6%, and Spain 12.2%. While 4.4 deaths per lakh population were reported across the world, India saw about 0.3 deaths per lakh population, which is amongst the lowest in the world. Spain has 504 cases per lakh population, Belgium 499 per lakh, America has 486 cases per lakh, while in the lower end of the spectrum too, Mexico has 52.2 cases per lakh population. However, despite a much slower doubling rate initially, the country's doubling rate worsened in the fourth phase of lockdown. India's doubling rate, which was 17 days on 22nd of May, shortened from 16 days to 15 days and then 14 days in the following days. However, a slowdown was recorded after a week of the rising growth, with the doubling rate reaching 16 days.
And let's now take a look at the situation in the states and how they are dealing with the pandemic.
Worst affected Maharashtra has 54,758 coronavirus cases. 1,792 patients have died so far, while 16,954 people have recovered in the state. In the past 24 hours, the state recorded 2,091 fresh cases and 97 deaths. Tamil Nadu has totaled 17,728 cases so far. 9,342 patients have recovered, while 127 succumbed. Cases in Gujarat have touched 14,821 with 915 deaths and 7,139 people cured so far. 792 fresh cases were reported in Delhi in the last 24 hours, taking the state's tally to 15,257. 7,264 people have recovered, while 303 deaths have been reported. Uttar Pradesh reported 277 fresh cases, taking the number of cases to 6,548. 3,855 people have been cured, while the death toll is 178. Meanwhile, the Goa government has done away with the home quarantine option for persons arriving from other states. State Chief Minister Pramod Sawant said that people will have to bring the negative certificate or take the test. Meanwhile, dealing with the twin challenges of COVID pandemic and Cyclone Amphan, West Bengal resumed its inter-district bus services for the North Bengal districts and Kolkata.
A special flight from Myanmar carrying 45 stranded Indian nationals reached Gaya International Airport on Wednesday.
Of these passengers, 5 were from Jharkhand. All passengers were stranded due to lockdown. After arrival, passengers were sent off to quarantine in hotels at Gaya. Meanwhile, 150 Indians arrived in Ahmedabad from Belarus at around 12:30 a.m. An Air India special flight carrying 150 passengers from Georgia arrived in Jaipur via Ahmedabad and Delhi at 7:45 p.m. 123 Indians arrived from Ireland to Kochi via Bengaluru at 2:45 p.m. Air India's special aircraft carrying 243 Indians arrived in Ahmedabad via Delhi from Paris at 7:30 p.m. Earlier, a flight from Toronto carrying 323 Indian nationals also arrived in Ahmedabad. Evacuation of stranded Indian nationals continued from Bangladesh as well. 170 people left Hazrat Shah Jalal Airport in Dhaka for Kolkata on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the centre has asked the states to ensure refund of extra charges for 7 days taken by the hotels for quarantine from Indians coming back from abroad. This comes in the backdrop of Ministry of Health and Family Affairs revising the guidelines for such persons to stay in hotel quarantine for 7 days and remaining 7 days in home isolation. Such persons had booked hotels in advance for 14 days.
Going to be traveling from the Paris to India. मेरे छोटे छोटे बच्चे पिछले 2 महीने से इंडिया में, परिवार सारा इंडिया में था. एम्बेसी ने बहुत सपोर्ट किया. जब भी उनसे ट्विटर पे या कभी भी मैसेंजर पे बात होती थी तो उन्होंने इमीडिएटली विद इन अ डे और विद इन फ्यू आवर्स आई यूज्ड टू गेट द रिप्लाई. दे ऑलवेज मोटिवेटेड एंड एनकरेज्ड मी एंड व्हिच हेल्प्ड मी.
Around 50 trains carried migrant workers back to their home states from various stations in Maharashtra.
Railway Minister Piyush Goyal said on Twitter that Railways planned 145 trains for Tuesday, but due to lack of passengers, only a few could run. He said nearly 7.5 lakh migrant labourers have been taken to their respective home states in more than 500 Shramik special trains. Meanwhile, 3,274 Shramik special trains have been operationalized from various states across the country till Monday. Over 44 lakh passengers have reached their home states by these trains. IRCTC distributed over 74 lakh free meals and more than 1 crore water bottles to the passengers. In addition to the Shramik specials, Railways plans to start 200 more timetabled trains on 1st of next month.
In some worrying news for neighbouring China and also for the world, 36 new cases of coronavirus have been reported from the country, including 28 asymptomatic cases that have been reported mostly from Wuhan, where the coronavirus outbreak began.
On Tuesday, China's National Health Commission reported 7 new imported cases. They included 5 in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region and 1 each in Shanghai and Fujian. No deaths related to the disease were reported. The Commission said 404 asymptomatic cases, including 27 from overseas, were still under medical observation. However, the Chinese Health Authority mentioned that no new domestically transmitted COVID-19 cases were reported in the Chinese mainland on Tuesday. As of Tuesday, the total confirmed COVID-19 cases were reported to be 82,993 in the mainland, while the deaths total 4,634. Wuhan was the worst affected city by the COVID-19 outbreak in China. Officials are now conducting a citywide coronavirus testing campaign on all residents to prevent a second wave of infections. 6.5 million nucleic acid tests have been conducted in Wuhan so far.
And news now about the pandemic from across the world. In his efforts to boost economic recovery, French President Emmanuel Macron has announced an €8 billion financial support for the domestic auto industry.
The plan focuses on the production of environmentally friendly vehicles. Spain has proposed to extend the tax deferral period for self-employed workers as well as small and medium-sized enterprises from 3 to 4 months. In addition, the government has announced a new guaranteed minimum income scheme for households who are at risk of poverty due to the coronavirus pandemic. The proposal is due for approval on Friday. On Wednesday, the streets of Moscow got busier as more people returned to work. Russia started easing lockdown restrictions partially since last week, allowing factory and construction workers to return to work. Shopping centers, hairdressers, and large gatherings are still suspended, while strict hygiene measures are being put in place across the country. Portugal is also easing restrictions. Shops and restaurants are slowly opening their doors for public, while outdoor pools are reopening in Italy with mandatory social distancing. On Wednesday, New Zealand reached a new milestone in its fight against COVID-19 pandemic after the last coronavirus patient was discharged from the hospital. For the first time since the pandemic induced a nationwide lockdown, there are no patients in hospitals being treated for the infection. However, there are 21 active cases in the country. Saudi Arabia on Tuesday announced that the first phase of lifting lockdown restrictions will start on Thursday. Travel between cities and regions except Mecca will be permitted during curfew hours from 3 p.m. to 6 a.m., while retail, wholesale shops and malls will be allowed to open. Relaxations are expected in the later phases, allowing religious places and domestic flights to resume service. Meanwhile, Iran's new parliament convened on Wednesday under strict health protocols and social distancing rules to contain the spread of coronavirus infection. Iran is one of the hardest hit Middle Eastern countries with over 1.4 lakh confirmed cases. Worldwide, the COVID-19 pandemic has claimed over 3,52,753 lives. The virus has infected over 5.7 million people so far.
And talking about the weather now, the IMD said on Wednesday that heatwave conditions will continue to prevail over Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, West Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, East Rajasthan, also in isolated pockets over Punjab, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Saurashtra and Kutch, Madhya Maharashtra, Marathwada, Telangana and North Interior Karnataka for the next 24 hours. Delhi on Tuesday recorded the hottest day in May in the last 18 years as the maximum temperature at the Safdarjung Observatory rose to 46 degrees Celsius. Delhiites sweltered under a scorching heat wave as most places recorded their maximum temperatures 6 notches above normal. And the mercury soared to 47.6 degrees Celsius in the Palam area on Tuesday. Mercury also rose in Himachal Pradesh by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius above normal. Maximum temperature in Shimla on Tuesday was 28.4 degrees Celsius. The season's highest temperature of 43.2 degrees Celsius was recorded in Una. Heatwave conditions intensified in Rajasthan as Churu recorded a high of 50 degrees Celsius on Tuesday. According to IMD, this is the second time the maximum temperature has touched this mark in the last 10 years. Earlier, on May 18, 2010, a temperature of 50.2 degrees Celsius was recorded. IMD also predicted severe heat wave in isolated places in Kota and Bundi in eastern Rajasthan and in Bikaner, Churu, Hanumangarh and Sri Ganganagar in the western part of the state. Besides the heat wave, the Indian Meteorological Department on Wednesday also said that a low pressure area was likely to form over the Southeast Arabian Sea and adjoining areas around May 31st and advised fishermen not to venture into the deep sea for fishing till June 4th. Due to strong southerly winds from the Bay of Bengal, heavy to extremely heavy rainfall is expected at isolated places in Assam, Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh till May 28th. The red color-coded warning issued by the IMD will persist for Assam and Meghalaya. The Assam State Disaster Management Authority has said that a total of 7 districts will be affected by the flood situation. The officials also said that the National Disaster Response Force and the State Disaster Response Force teams have already been deployed at 40 locations with equipment. India is battling its worst desert locust outbreak in decades. Insect attacks have been reported from Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and also Uttar Pradesh. Swarms of insects are now reported to be headed towards Delhi.
The national capital is on alert. According to entomologists, the locust outbreak in Delhi can be severe if the wind speed moving towards the north is favorable for the arrival of insects. The impact of locust attack on Delhi could be alarming, as 22% of its area is under green cover that can provide breeding ground for the pests. Punjab is also on alert. Control rooms have been set up in each district and farmers have been asked to report any activity of locusts. District agriculture officers have been asked to purchase chemicals as needed to contain any locust attack. The state government has sanctioned 1 crore rupees to contain locust attacks. On Tuesday, swarms of locusts entered Maharashtra, flying across Vidarbha's Amravati, Wardha and Nagpur. They also descended on the orange orchards of Katol in Nagpur as well as the neem trees in Morshi and Varud in Amravati. According to the State Agriculture Department, the swarm is at least 10 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. The locusts entered Maharashtra almost 17 years since the last invasion. The desert locusts have already extensively damaged crops in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan.
Even as Uttarakhand is battling the novel coronavirus pandemic, swarms of desert locusts, another major environment tragedy has hit the state. Forest fires have been raging in the state for at least 4 days now, and there seems to be no respite for the firefighters.
Making matters worse is the heat wave sweeping North India, which made the region the hottest on the planet on Tuesday. The heat is accelerating the forest fires, which have decimated acres of green cover. According to reports, 46 forest fires have been reported from Uttarakhand and many hectares of forest have already been gutted, while around 21 instances of forest fires were reported from Kumaon region alone. Garhwal has also reported around 16 incidents.
The Indian Air Force on Wednesday operationalized its new squadron, number 18 Flying Bullets, with the light combat aircraft Tejas. Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadoria launched it at the Sulur Air Base near Coimbatore.
The Flying Bullet serves as the second Indian Air Force squadron to operate with a modern multi-role fighter aircraft LCA Tejas. The first squadron to operate the aircraft, known as the number 45 Flying Daggers, is also headquartered at the same base. The indigenously developed light fighter aircraft LCA Tejas is certified with the full operational clearance standard. It is tailless, fourth generation compound delta wing aircraft developed by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Equipped with fly-by-wire flight control system, integrated digital avionics and multi-mode radar, its structure is made of composite material. The supersonic combat aircraft is the lightest and the smallest of its kind. Its new home, the Flying Bullet Squadron, was initially formed in 1965 and is the first to operate from Srinagar. The squadron was revived on 1st April this year at the Sulur base. It is set to further augment India's defense of her air frontiers.
18 squadron and 45 squadron will become the core of our growth in terms of combat capability for the future, especially as 83 LCAs coming. That's why we put the best people in these two squadrons, and as a core you need to grow and absorb the other 83 LCAs that will come up in the next decade and ensure that this combat capability is proliferated into the Air Force in the right manner. I want to thank the industry for making this happen. I want to urge them to synergize, work together and do more in the future. I have no doubt that when the opportunity arises, these two squadrons, with even the IOC and FOC version of the LCA, would surprise the adversary with their capability and with their determination.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Thursday paid tributes to Veer Savarkar on his birth anniversary.
In a series of tweets, the Vice President said that Veer Savarkar had a multi-dimensional personality. He was a freedom fighter, social reformer, writer and political thinker. Naidu said Savarkar envisioned a casteless India and started one of the most powerful social reform movements against untouchability. He also added that Savarkar's indomitable spirit and commitment to free his motherland from foreign oppression will always be remembered. The Vice President urged that the present generation must take inspiration from Veer Savarkar's life and ideals in order to build a strong, prosperous and inclusive India.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has called for a change in the condition of farmers in the country. In an article in leading publications, the Vice President said, "For every rupee that a farmer makes, others in the supply chain reap several times as such. And this needs to change."
He said India is today a leading producer of a variety of agricultural and allied produce and exporter of some of them. The Vice President said that this is due to the hard work and efforts of our farmers against all odds. He added, farmers toil day and night, winter or summer, rain or shine, adequate returns or not, but they are not the masters of the price of their toil. As the son of a farmer, I am a witness to the trials and tribulations of the farmers in myriad ways. Highlighting farmers' plight, Naidu said remunerative price is still a mirage for them and their farm incomes are at the mercy of markets, middlemen and money lenders. He called for this to change.
And that's it from us in this bulletin. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.